right, boys, we are live, episode 14 of the Deconstruction Podcast. First episode of the new year. Happy New Year's, fellas.
Happy
Charlie,
New
if
Year.
everyone's watching, Charlie is not on an AI screen. That is his real background. Very envious right now.
No, I don't want to make anybody jealous. This is all AI.
Yeah, we're stuck here in the cold. Boys, excited to jump back on here. First off, if you are listening, you are in construction, a contractor, a sub-trade, and you're looking for ways to streamline and make your business more efficient. Anything from managing your clients, scheduling, creating professional quotes, invoicing faster, getting paid faster, work orders, job managing, you name it, an all-in-one platform. Check out Jobtable.com. It's what you need. You can sign up for a 14-day free trial and give it a run, but it's saving thousands of contractors many hours per week. So check it out, Jobtable.com. All right, boys, how we feeling?
Feeling great. Can't complain.
Not as good as Charlie.
Hey, sometimes you have to take a little rest, a little break.
Yeah, I hear that. All right, so look, there's a few really good topics today that we're going to hit on. First off, I'm actually surprised we haven't hit on this topic. I'm just sharing my screen for those watching. AI, right? Just artificial intelligence, AI. This has been probably the hottest keyword in the media in the last 12, 18 months. We're going to talk about this. So I'm sharing an article, and I've been just seeing a lot of AI-related content and articles related to construction recently. And so this is an article that I came across last week. So it's called, it's from the CBC here, AI and robotic arms flex new tech muscles to boost lagging home construction in Canada. So very interesting article. I just want to highlight a couple of the key points here. So it's highlighting a couple of Canadian companies. One is called Promise Robotics. So this company is basically using AI to create so it creates software and robots, and the arms of the robot essentially are reading blueprints and essentially like thinking for themselves about like what cuts to make, what pieces to nail together, where holes need to be drilled for wires and plumbing. So very interesting technology, and according to recent report from consulting giant McKinsey and Company, the global $12 trillion architecture, engineering, and construction business has been among the slowest to digitize and innovate. I have to laugh at that because, I don't think you need a consulting giant to tell you that construction is slow to digitize and innovate, but that's interesting. It's another point here. So Canada's industry has been a laggard, adding that the country needs a massive productivity increase in order to hit home building targets set by the federal and provincial governments. The company says it can cut the total time it takes to build a house to about 5 months, which is about half the typical length according to the government data. So really interesting. And then the second piece of this article, this is actually, I'll put this article in the show notes. It's a cool video here. It shows what the robots do and how they're helping builders basically build houses a lot faster. But it also highlights a second company here quickly, Toronto-based Horizon Legacy. It describes its robotic arm, Val 2.0, as a portable 3D printer that pours a special concrete mix to form the walls of a house. And the company spent 3 years and a few $1 million developing the platform. And it recently finished pouring the walls for a 26-unit housing project in Gananoque, Ontario, a small town 3 hours east of Toronto. So these are just a couple of examples of how AI is hitting construction and what a few notable companies are doing, Canadian companies. So I want to kick it off there, guys. Johnny, when you think about AI, in your business and just hearing about like what these companies are doing to push home construction and speed it up, like how do you think about AI, touching on that and even related to your business?
Yeah, I think it's necessary, like you said. We are kind of like the slowest industry to implement and just implement new technologies, I want to say. So, I'm embracing it. I don't know where it's going to take us. I don't know how good it's going to be. I guess only time will tell. But I am excited to see, kind of new technology being brought into the construction world. I think we can all agree that, we talk about it a lot where, we're kind of like the dinosaurs of like all the industries. And I think new technology is always good, right? It's always good to innovate, make all the processes faster, make them easier, smoother. So for me, I'd love to see where this goes. I truly would. I don't want to see the one downfall I will say to AI is I just don't want to see any trades being replaced. I believe it's there's like a masterful skill involved, right? And I know a lot of people are kind of afraid of what AI can do. But at the same time, you take the pros and the cons, and I just want to see where this will go. I'm actually like pretty excited to hear about them putting up a building with it, or them like framing a house. Yeah, just
I think
excited.
if robots and AI were to, you can already see AI changing and disrupting a lot of industries, like even today, right? Like customer support. I see it affecting legal, lawyers a lot, doctors. Like so, it's touching a lot, content, design. Actually, so many industries that it's impacting right now. But if I were to guess, I'd probably say trades, like to be like a skilled plumber, like or an electrician or whatever, like that'll be the last thing that can take over. Because like you said, like it's just like the intricacies. And not to say it can't. If I were to bet, I'd probably say one day it probably will be able to, but probably be the last.
Yeah, like I'd like to see it a lot more. Truthfully, like I know that article talks about like the housing sector, like building houses faster, which there might be some parts of it that it could definitely speed up the process. But the one that I'm more excited to see it on is more for like bridges, like more like heavy duty infrastructure, right? Because that's one thing that I know here in North America, a lot of people they talk about it. It takes so long to put up a bridge, and I understand the safety concerns behind it, right? But then you look across the world, and it's like China put up a bridge in like what was it, like 4 days? You know, living here in Toronto, and I know people like in New York and like LA, like a lot of these crowded places. The second you implement these, infrastructures on the roads and highways and bridges and stuff like that, it like imagine people's drive home. So if you have something like AI, and these robotics that literally can put this thing up in 3, 4, 5 days, right? That's where I think it's going to be like very powerful. But not to say also building a home faster, it won't be as impactful, but I think more on the heavy infrastructure. I'd like to see it impact there like first.
Me personally, I'm very conflicted with this. We've had talks, outside of this podcast, and obviously the AI is early days right now for construction. So, you're not going to see a house being 3D printed today and dropped on the ground. But with that being said, we're probably not too far away from that happening. So a part of me wants to see this house being 3D printed. I'm curious, like everybody, like it's pretty cool, right? We all have to admit that, you're gonna cut the time of construction. You said, cut it down to 5 months. Any house, if you're building a house in Toronto in 10 months, you're a champ. Not many people can do that. So, I think it would still be a little more than 5 months, but regardless, it's impressive. And I think a lot of us want to see it. Now, where I push back, I was born in the 80s. I'm kind of like, grew up in that kind of like sweet spot of, being half old school and then half into the tech world. All three of us are that way, right? So I think guys that are cut from our cloth really appreciate the quality of the craftsmanship. So if you look at Toronto today, the buildings that are going up, we're living in a concrete jungle. There's no art to it anymore, right? These are just ugly concrete buildings going up, stucco. There's no more limestone. There's no more block work on these buildings. And it's a shame. So where I push back on the AI is I feel that we're actually becoming the architects of our own demise. As cool as it is, as much as you're going to streamline processes and just completely revolutionize the way things work, you're also going to absolutely eliminate skilled tradesmen, craftsmanship, jobs across the board. Like you said, Costa, you named a few, and there's a whole bunch more coming. So, we all watch Terminator movies, and obviously that's a kind of a stretch. But also on the flip side of the coin, is it a stretch? You look at some of these conversations that people are having with these AI bots, and it might not be as much of a stretch as we think, right? So that's where I feel like I'm very conflicted,
Yeah, that's a good point. But, to me, I think it's too early to even determine that. But I think there's a lot of similarities to comparing this to like the agricultural revolution, right? When like big machinery started, being invented and implemented on farms. And it was the same discussions happening. It's like, oh, it's going to eliminate farmers and it's going to take jobs away. But what ended up happening is just it actually allowed human productivity to increase and just like evolve even further. So, maybe you can make the argument that it's like, yeah, it might take certain jobs away, but that will allow, humans and like other sectors to just being formulated and developed, just like
and
the
definitely
iPhone,
focus.
right? Think
Yeah,
about
you can focus on
good
different
example.
things.
Yeah, like think about the iPhone, right? When it first came out, what the iPhone came out, but it created a whole other ecosystem in an economy, which
Yeah,
is like the app world, which never existed. Like you needed the iPhone to create a whole new economy of apps, which now is like, probably pull it up, like what, hundreds of billion-dollar industry, if not trillions of dollars of an industry that just got created because of this technology. So, I kind of look at it, more on the positive side on that and like what it could, do to the economy's business, humanity, productivity. So
yeah.
very interesting.
And I personally feel we've already gotten rid of the craftsmanship, right? Forget AI. Like I think it's already gone just because the speed that they're putting up buildings and the amount of immigration and housing that's needed in the countries, right? So that's already a shattered dream.
Johnny, I think, are you on mute?
Yeah, sorry guys. One thing I will agree with you on there, Charlie, is that's the one thing that I feel like even as today, we have moved away from is the art of putting up these buildings, right? Everybody that goes to Europe, every time, you're in Italy, Greece, Spain, Portugal, like you name it, when you walk down these streets, it's just like you look at these buildings and and they were built 500 1,000 years ago, and you look at the architecture and it's just like, wow, like that is a mastercraft, right? And then you walk downtown and you think about it and it's like, okay, here's a 70-story tower, but is anybody going to walk by this in 500 years and look at it and be like, look at this masterpiece, right? It's an engineering masterpiece, definitely, to put up a structure that tall. I'll give that. But in general, the look of like, this construction that's going on, I feel like the art, it's not there, right?
I don't
I
think that's
think
an AI thing though.
No, but
That's
what
been
I'm
happening
saying
way
is, no,
before.
I think you're missing the point. What I'm saying is with AI, I feel like they're going to follow kind of like that suit, right? Where right now, even before AI kicks off, I'd love to see that art being brought into construction now, right? Where you have these beautiful archways and this masterful like brickwork and like hand carving. Like you don't see that, right?
See,
I
you
agree.
can maybe make an argument that you can use AI to bring that back a lot easier, like more efficiently, like figure out ways to bring that back?
I would strongly disagree. I do agree that we're already going down the path, but I think AI will just propel us even further and faster down that path. And where I would disagree that AI could actually turn that around, I truly believe that we as people have gotten away from just being humans. It's not just with the craftsmanship, like Johnny mentioned. That's a big one. Like going to Europe, there's no denying that there's a feeling that you would get that you won't get anywhere else, seeing concrete buildings in New York, for example, right, or Toronto. But with that being said, not only that, further than that, is as people, like we live in massive mega cities where people don't even look at each other and say hello to each other anymore, right? So I think these are all like things that are just piling up on top of each other, and AI will just kind of reinforce the way we live and just push it further down that road.
Yeah, because it's all about, like, think about it. The AI, it's coming in, and what is it for? It's just for production, right? So it's exactly like when the subdivision started, a while ago. It's all about just producing the most amount of homes, not the most beautiful homes, right? It's the same with the buildings, like putting up a building as fast and as cost efficient as possible.
That's it.
And you're moving away from the art, right? Um, um, you know, and, you could just go down the line. Like, I know this is obviously not feasible, but I know Costa, when I was in Portugal, and I told you about this, and I know you went to go visit it. It was like, remember that church that was like, it's like carved out of gold. Like you walk in, the whole church, like the walls, the archways, the pillars, and you're looking at this thing, and it's like, I don't
Yeah,
even
no one's
think we
building
can.
a gold church anymore.
Yeah, no, but like,
Right?
think about it, right? Like truthfully, if they wanted to build something like that, right, today, like, do you even think we have the people with the skill to do it? I don't think there really is anybody,
There
because
would definitely be few and far between, right?
yeah,
So
And
that's I agree with everything, but my point is that I think AI will allow that skill to come back because you can leverage this thing where, like, if someone who's like doesn't have the skill and has like a very powerful like AI tool or system that can help build that
Yeah,
when you otherwise
I can
couldn't
definitely
have.
see. Yeah, like a skilled trade will become very scarce, right? An artist will become very scarce. Like if you say, oh well, this AI can make me a painting just as good as that, but it's like I know it came from this one last artist that can still do this, right? So that means something. Somebody's gonna want to buy that and pay for it. But with that being said, now fast forward 100 years from now, are those people even still around, right? Like the more you keep pushing this and pushing this, these people are gonna slowly kind of disappear.
Yeah,
So
it's a crazy time.
that's
I want
that's my
to
word.
I want to talk. I had two unique instances in the last couple of weeks. So like kind of scaling it back to like everyday usage on like how to use AI and stuff. So like I'm always like an early adapter on all this new technology. So like I personally use AI, ChatGPT, Gemini's, all these platforms like every day. Probably now I use AI tools more than Google, to be honest. So, one example, I was speaking to a client of ours. He's an electrician, and we're just talking new company, like kind of setting things up, doing well early on, and we were talking about like just like what he's doing, and he was working on a logo, like his branding and stuff. And he was telling me that he's working on the logo because we were setting up his PDF, like onboarding him into Jobtable. So I was just helping him out, and asked if he has a logo to set up on his PDF. And he was telling me that he just hired someone to create his logo. He got quoted like $400 or $500. And right when I heard that, like I stopped him. We went on Google Meet. Like I shared my screen and we went on Canva, which, for those who don't know Canva, like check it out. It can make like really great designs very easily. But they also have a lot of AI implementation. So basically went on this platform and created a logo for him, just using some prompts. Like, I'm an electrician, I want my logo to be this, this, and this. And it created a logo in a few seconds. And so we literally created his logo in like 2 minutes. So he like canceled that, quote he got from that designer, and he just used AI to develop and create a quote in 2 minutes. So, again, I want to the practical example on how you can leverage AI to just be more productive, save time, and save a lot of money, as in this case. Second example, which this one was a week later, coincidentally, spoken to another client of ours. I think he's in like masonry. He has a masonry company, and he was working on his website, and he was telling me he was dedicating like 3 hours on a Saturday just to like write up some content and like pages on his website and his services and stuff. So same thing, showed him like ChatGPT with like a few prompts, and he created his content in like 5 minutes. So that saved him probably like 5 hours worth of like admin work on content. So there's as bad as like you're thinking of like a lot of the negatives with AI on a day-to-day practicality usage as it is right now, which I can vouch for this because like it's literally saving me hours and hours every single day, really. So when you start using it on a very practical level like this, it's so impactful for especially like trades and like any business.
No, definitely.
And also, Casa, just quickly to that point, no matter where you land on the topic, at the end of the day, AI is here to stay. So if you're a person and you're a business owner that is completely against it, the harsh reality is that most businesses will use it and they will be propelled way past you.
You have to adapt to it. Like, it's not going anywhere.
Or you have to fall behind.
Like, 100%. Like, this is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. It's just going to get more powerful, bigger, better. So if you're sleeping on AI right now, I'm sorry. Like, I think that's a very bad move to make. Like, you really got to get proactive.
But I do think these conversations are important though, because where does it end? That's my only concern, right? Like, how fast will these things evolve and potentially become hazardous, right? Safety risks. That's
for sure. Yeah, these things always have to be in the back of your mind, undoubtedly. But at the same time, you got to kind of use what's in front of you to your advantage.
Yeah.
Whenever you can.
Yeah, you got to adapt. You got to adapt, and you know what? Even I know we were all there. Even the beginning of the internet, right? How many people thought, this is the end? Like, what are we doing? The way we're connecting and all the information. And look, obviously, there's going to be good and bad. And as humans, I think we typically learn to sort through that. So, like, just to touch base, I think AI is here to stay. I think the faster you jump on and you understand it, the further ahead you're going to be. We're still struggling to get, when we talk to certain clients, to get them off of, paper invoices and carbon copies. And, here's a robot building a house, right? Like, it's crazy, right? Like, you really need to embrace the times. It's 2025. Technology is just, advancing at a rapid pace. And again, you don't want to be the last one, to the show, right? Like, you need to embrace it. You need to learn it. And you need to adapt and just use it to your advantages.
I want to like give a couple more examples. Like, I gave these two examples of like more like startup companies, how they used AI. But even for like a company like iPlum, for example, right? Like, bigger contractor, you guys have like 30 plus employees, like commercial. So like, even for you guys, right? Top of my head, one thing I could see is like you're dealing with like, you get a lot of contracts, right? Heavy contracts put in front of you for potential jobs, whatever. So what do you have to do now? Probably have to like send that to a lawyer to assess it, pull up the red flags, right? What do lawyers cost? $300-400 an hour, right? To do that, probably a few $1,000. Am I right so far?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Just to see a contract. What I would do, and I actually have like real life experience in the last like 12 months. I've had like contracts in front of me where I would usually like send to a lawyer. Today, I'm uploading these contracts into like a Gemini, a ChatGPT, and within seconds, they're analyzing that contract, telling me what to look out for, red flags, things to be mindful of, for free. so like what do I need a lawyer for? Right. So that's one like very practical, easy example that a company like your size could do. Even things like, you're bidding on a job, right? Like you can use AI to help with, like risk assessment and like budget shortfalls by just like inputting some of the information on a potential project. Maybe it's going to pick up things that you overlooked, right? So
Well, it's
that could be
actually
another thing.
it's actually funny you say that because I actually didn't even notice it until we're talking about it right now. So we do use an estimating software to do our takeoffs, and like we do prompt the software, so we'll give it a tag. Let's say, there's a toilet on these plans, right? So we'll upload the plans and, we'll literally prompt it to basically say, okay, how many, identify how many, typically on a mechanical drawing, toilets are WC, right? Like that's their abbreviation. So we'll put in like WC, click enter, and within seconds it's like 43 of them. You know what I mean? And they'll highlight them on the drawing, right? So like it's actually crazy that we're talking about it because some of the programs that we actually are using have it in there. It's just
Of course.
just didn't
Yeah.
we didn't like you know like on at the high level we didn't even I didn't even know that's actual AI, right? But thinking about it now, we do use it actually.
Percent. Like even for, I speak to a lot of contractors who, we're like, for example, finance and accounting is not the strong suit, right? And like you always need like a third party to kind of manage that side of the business in a lot of cases. So again, another practical example is like, put in your financials, a report that you can even get from Jobtable, give it to an AI, and like this AI will be like your financial advisor in like a matter of minutes to give you like assess your business, like things maybe to look out for. So it's like you can go down the list. Like these are three things just top of my head that
Yeah,
if I'm
yeah.
a contractor that I'm thinking about, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So yeah. Anything to add about AI or this topic or?
No, I
No,
think we
just
touched on all points for the most
yeah,
part.
just looking forward to see where it goes.
Yeah, and if you're not on AI, like go Chat GPT, Google Gemini is really good. So those are two, just easy platforms to get on. Next topic that I wanted to go through, a little bit of a segue here. Charlie, why don't you kick this one off? iPlum, back to relating it to your business. Again, you guys have been around over 15 years. Probably have dealt with, I don't know, hundreds upon hundreds of clients in your time. And I'm sure you've come across the good, the bad, the ugly. So how do you deal with bad clients in a nutshell?
Yeah.
I send them to Charlie.
Yeah, he sends them to. Yeah,
That's why I'm asking
he sends
Charlie.
them to me. Yeah, he sends them to me. Look, I have a really interesting story for Johnny. I hope you don't mind me telling this one, but
Don't name
I'll
names.
start. No. I mean, me and you are in the story, but no. So listen, I'll start by saying, we've dealt with every single kind of person you can imagine over the years, right? From good to bad, aggressive, violent, calm, crazy, you name it. We've come across them. Fortunately, now we have a good repertoire. We work with the same people for the most part. We have maybe like 10, 12 GCs that we primarily work for. And we still do venture outside of these guys, but for the most part, we work with them. So we're happy. And that's something, I guess, like you have to earn and over the years, and you kind of build that, right? That relationship. Now, again, within those companies, you'll sometimes come across new hires that might not be the most knowledgeable project managers or site supers. So because of the relationship you have, and it's a respectful one with the general contractor, you make it work, right? Obviously, sometimes if you have to go above their head to their boss because they're rubbing you the wrong way or causing trouble on the site, giving your guys a hard time for no reason, whatever the case may be, then you have to. But we try to avoid it. We work it out like men. And most of the times it does work out. But I have a story of early days dealing with a very bad client. And this person happened to contact us. They somehow got our name, a referral. I don't know, they heard about us and they heard that we were good. At the time, me and Johnny had, this is actually, Johnny was in the office and I was running a crew of only 2 guys, our first 2 hires. And we get a call from a gentleman who tells us that him and his wife are general contractors, and they're doing a renovation for a customer who's out of town, and they're in desperate need of a plumber. We were very, very busy. I think this is maybe like year 2, year 1.5, 2. We were still very small. So Johnny told them, he said, look, we can do the job, but we only have 2 days available in the schedule. So what's the work? Do you think we can get it done in 2 days? So he tells us the job, and we could comfortably say that we can get it done on a Tuesday, Wednesday, no problem. But you have to make sure that everything is prepared for us. So if you guys are supplying the fixtures, everything's got to be on site, so on and so forth. He promised us the moon, because we told him, we said, look, we're not trying to be disrespectful, but we literally have only 2 days that we can squeeze you in. So beyond the 2 days, we're out of there. We can't help you. We might have to come back in a few weeks, which is not going to help you. He agreed. Me and our two employees show up to this job, and it's an absolute shit show right off the bat, right? Like this husband and wife clearly have no idea what they're doing. So I try to work with them. I say, look, so I redo the layout with them. Everything that they were proposing didn't make any sense. It was going against code. So we literally redesigned the entire job, where all the fixtures were going to go and how everything's going to work. And we start piping everything in, and he had nothing on site ready for us. None of the fixtures were there. So I kind of, we were ahead of schedule. So I tell him, look, make sure you have them tomorrow morning. We got one more day here. We come the next day, he decides that he wants to change where everything's going. So we do it for him, free of charge. So we cut out some piping, we relocate fixtures. He leaves, he comes back, and he tells us he wants to change it again. So now I'm getting frustrated, and again, the lack of knowledge is actually probably what was bothering me the most, because he was actually like to the point that it was actually like, I was scared. I was actually concerned for the homeowners that this guy was building out this space, right? Like that's how unknowledgeable he was. So I tell the guy, I said, look, I've already changed things a few times for you. I'm gonna have to charge you for this, right? It's gonna take some time. We're gonna probably end up working until midnight tonight to get it done in the 2 days. So he starts arguing with me, and he starts getting very aggressive. And I try to calm him down. My 2 guys try to calm him down, and he's like, we're nose to nose, right? And obviously I don't want to fight this guy. So I say, look, if you want, you can just pay us for what we did and we can leave, right? And he starts threatening me. He says, no, you're going to fucking finish the job. I don't care how fucking long it takes you. And again, like, it was to the point that I actually thought I was going to have to defend myself. So at that point, he looks at me and he goes, you know what? You're going to do what I tell you right now, and I'm going to call your fucking boss, and I'm going to tell him that you're refusing to do the work. So a little side note is, I typically never told anybody I was one of the owners, right? So I kind of like masqueraded as just one of the employees. I just didn't want, I've never liked the attention, I still don't. But he clearly didn't know that I was one of the owners. So I see him take off in a huff and a puff, and I look at my guys and I kind of smile, like, because I know that he's going to call my business partner, right, to give him crap about me. So I see him on the phone, and he comes back and he looks at me and he goes, yeah, you're in fucking trouble now, buddy. He goes, I just called your boss, and wait, he's going to call you. So you're going to go back to work and you're going to do what I say. So my phone rings. I show him my phone. I said, yeah, there's my boss calling me. Just give me a sec. So I walk away. I pick up the phone, and it's Johnny. And he says, hey, Charlie, what's going on over there? And I said, John, I can't explain to you right now, but I'm going to cut every single piece of pipe that we just put in, and I'll call you later to explain what happened. And Johnny, it's just silence for a second. Johnny says, okay, have fun. I'll talk to you later. So I turned around and I looked at my 2 guys and I said, boys, cut it all out. So this guy being already in a panic, because I could tell he was behind schedule on this entire job. Now we had cut out half of the joists in this place because of all the changes he wanted to make. It was an absolute disaster and an embarrassment. And his wife had showed up. And she was trying to calm him down when he was being aggressive with us. So he starts absolutely like losing his mind. He's like, I'm gonna call the fucking cops, this and that. And I said, go ahead, call them. I'm not doing it. I'm just taking back my pipe. So sure enough, he calls the cops. They show up, and the cops look at the guy and say, well, did he install this pipe? And he goes, yeah. He goes, are you gonna pay him? He's like, no. He goes, well, then they can take it back. So we ended up cutting every single piece of pipe that we put into that place, and it was the best $4,000 that I've ever lost in my life. And it's not that I necessarily recommend doing this, because I don't. It's not the way I like to work. But the moral of the story is, be very careful who you work with, right? That's the point of the story. You never want to work with people that, number one, have no idea what the fuck they're doing, right? Construction, skilled trades is an art. We pride ourselves in what we do day in, day out. And this is like year 2 of business. I was 27 years old, and I already knew way more than this guy did, who was like 60 years old, right? Be careful who you work with. We take pride in what we do. So number one, knowledge is the key. Number 2 is respect. We have a hard job to do, right? Everybody goes in, punches in, day out. It's not like we're sitting at a desk pushing papers. Like, it's tough, guys get hurt, guys sweat, and so the last thing you want to do is be in an environment with somebody that's completely disrespecting you. And then, after that, you build relationships with the right people, and things will fall into place.
That's a great. I don't know how I'm just hearing about this story now. Like, that's a good one.
It goes a little bit deeper, but we'll leave it. That's the PG.
Yeah,
that's the PG. I can only imagine.
Yeah, look. You're gonna deal with good and bad, right? Me, like, being in business for as long as we've been so far. You got to take the good with the bad. Some clients are just unrealistic. Some clients, you just, no matter what you do, you just can't please them. But what I would say is always, getting back to what I've said many times, just, you got to be yourself, you got to be true. And the one thing, actually, like, another kind of like, something that happened this week is, we're dealing with a client right now where I just feel like they always complain about lost time, yet they don't care about, like, your lost time, and that's the biggest one for me, where I feel like everybody has to have respect for each other, right? I'm going to respect your time, but also you need to respect my time, right? So if you're asking me for something that's, it's just unrealistic, but you're going about it in a friendly way, I'm going to do anything I can, right? I'll move mountains if I have to, right? But if you come off like a dick, are you inclined to do it? No, right? So, and truthfully, I tell my client, like, I'll put them in check sometimes, right? Where they'll be talking in a certain way, and I'll just tell them, like, look, man, if you're going to talk like this, like, no, we're not going to do it. I'm not going to rearrange the whole week because you're in a jam and you just don't know how to, like, just ask politely, right? Because if you ask me in a good manner, getting back to, like, the book that we were talking about, right? How to win friends and influence people, right? It's all on your approach, right? So, when you are dealing with those kind of clients, like, look, there's certain times you have to stand firm and you got to put them in check. But then there's other times as well where you need to put your ego aside sometimes. Like, I know on some of the larger projects, certain project managers or even, the owner of the company, they're getting a lot of pressure applied to them, right? So sometimes they'll talk in a certain way, and even though it's rubbing you the wrong way, sometimes it's better just to, like, turn around and just have in the back of your mind that it's like, look, man, they're probably under a lot of pressure. I know the guy doesn't normally speak like that. Yeah, it's not his character. Something must be going on. So it's just like, yeah, okay, no problem. And, you just turn around and go about doing what you got to do. So I think you got to pick and choose your battles. where you're going to put your clients in check. But I always say to everybody, just be true to who you are, be respectful, be kind, be the best at what you do. And if you're doing all those right things and that client is still like that, then at that point, I think you just got to look at it and reassess and just ask yourself, even though you need the work, like, are they, are we aligned, right? Because if we are aligned, we wouldn't talk to each other like that, right?
Yeah.
Just
But
like
back to, I'm surprised. Sorry, I'm surprised, Johnny. You didn't say your famous line, right? Don't chase the money, chase the relationship. That's how I look at things like this. And Charlie, great example of, you're basically fired a client, right? Usually, business owners, we think about, like, when you're firing, it's like team members, employees. But back to Johnny, what you just said. Sometimes the best feelings is actually firing a client. That's like, I can see it being tough in a lot of cases, especially if you're starting out and you need the money, but saving the headache, the hassle, the bullshit, and firing a client is one of the most rewarding things like you could do for your own sanity.
And I can't tell you how many times we've actually done that, like, respectively, where it's like, no, I'm not pricing anymore. No, we're not going to do any more work. And they think to themselves, like, okay, it's their loss. Now again, I know it sounds cliche, but I tell you that, what you get with us is a high level of care and respect. You know what I mean? When we're doing a project, right? We take it very, very seriously. And we never give nobody the runarounds. We always come through. We're very responsive. So the number of times that we've actually fired clients, so to speak, might be a month, might be 6 months, might be a year, but they tend to always come back. And when they come back, right, you notice that the dynamic has changed, and it's changed for the better because they've probably gone out, right, went to go deal with other contractors, right, thinking like, okay, like, fuck this guy. There's a million other plumbing companies out there, right? They go hire another plumbing company, and then they see, unfortunately, what, a ton of businesses are like out there, and how these people are not pulling rabbits out of the hat for them every time they ask, or they're not delivering, or the workmanship's not that good, or they're not responsive, and then they end up coming back, and it's almost like like those friendships sometimes where it's like you kind of need to go nose to nose, and then it kind of like it elevates the relationship to a new point where it's like you guys have built this respect, like you kind of had to hash it out, right, to fully understand, and then you guys kind of come back to the table and you guys are closer than ever, and I can't tell you how many times that's happened with us. We get people literally since like day one that we've started. When we started the company, we worked for them, something happened, and obviously I don't want to name the name of the company, and it's like, okay, you know what, like, go find somebody else. 3 years went by, they ended up coming back, and like today they're one of our biggest clients, right? Still, right? So it happens like that, right? But that's where I always say, just be true to yourself. Again, Costa, like you said, that motto that I live by, it's very relevant in this topic. Like, don't chase the money, chase the relationships, right? Because, I value relationships as probably the biggest commodity in my business, right? Relationship with my employees, relationship with my customers, relationship with my business partner, just everything in general, right? So,
general rule of thumb, if a client, a general contractor is talking down to you, they're probably not someone that you want to work with. For anybody starting businesses out there, that's a good measuring stick. Treat people the way you want to be treated, and that goes both ways. If you're not being treated right, they're probably not someone you want to work with. We've said this on the podcast before. When we make hires in our plumbing company, we will never put ourselves above our employees, and we don't expect them to put themselves above us or any co-workers that they have. We can't run a business without them, and they don't have a job without us. We're all here to work together. So that's the way I like to look at it, for sure.
Yeah. And just to like wrap this up, back, I know we spoke about this before, but I think about how important it is to be authentic and just be yourself. And what that does is just it's the law of attraction, right? You attract people like you, and the more authentic you are, you're just going to gravitate to to have better clients, better customers, and all that.
Yeah. And Johnny,
just be true.
Johnny made a great point. Like, at the end of the day, we're all human, and humans make mistakes, right? There are going to be those people that might disrespect you and treat you poorly, and you say, you know what, I wish you all the best, but I don't want to work with you anymore. And they'll reflect, and they're going to see what else is out there and say, you know what, fuck, I was a real prick. I shouldn't have done that. The way I spoke to them or the things I demanded were just completely unreasonable. And if they come back around, I think that in the end, everybody deserves a second chance, and then it could actually become some of the best relationships you'll ever have. There can be growth.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And last point here, just don't think, like, for all the people listening, don't think that people are just going to say sorry, right? They're like, you gotta, again, you gotta judge people's characters. There's some people that, unfortunately, the word sorry or I shouldn't have done that is just, it's not in them, right? But the way they kind of come back, everybody has like kind of like a different expression, right? The way they kind of say sorry, or the way they, the way they tuck their tail, let's just say. So, you just be mindful of that as well. Not everybody's going to say sorry, but obviously if they're coming to you again with a calm approach, that's kind of like, what I've noticed is like kind of like their form of sorry. Like they shouldn't have talked to you like that, or they shouldn't have said that. They shouldn't have put something in an email. They shouldn't have blasted you the way they did. Because like Charlie just said too, we're all humans. We all make mistakes. And I always judge people on like, look, you made a mistake. It's all on how you rectify it, right? If you're quick to respond, if you're quick to like, mitigate the problem, I don't want to dwell on what happened. I just want to find, solutions, and let's just rectify it, and let's put it behind us, and let's move on, right? I think you've said it before, Costa. I know you've said it many times, but I know you've said it on this podcast, where it's like, you can't dwell on what you can't, like, you can't change the past, right? Like, you can't dwell on it. So let's look forward, let's find a solution. Let's stop talking about the problem. Find the solution. Let's work at the solution. I'd rather waste energy looking for the solution and fixing the problem than dwelling on who did it, why did you do it, calling somebody an asshole, making them feel small. Like, it gets to a point where it's like, man, it's not going to solve nothing, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think this is a nice transition into the next topic we want to discuss, right? I think one of the biggest reasons why it's hard for a lot of contractors to just end up like putting up with the bullshit and continuing to work with clients they don't like is because they need the money, the revenue, and they know there's competition right behind them. If they're not going to do the job, someone else is. So, you guys now, again, being in 15 plus years, which that alone, guys, amazing, like accomplishment that in itself. But, I'm sure you guys have seen a lot of plumbing companies in your space come and go. How do you guys think about competition, and how do you treat your competitors? Like, how do you think about that, Johnny?
Competition's healthy. Definitely is. I'm all about free market. So, competition is healthy. It's what, let's just say, sets the prices, in my opinion. Now, I don't know how to word this properly, but it has to be the right competition, right? So, like we're in the commercial, industrial, mid-rise, low-rise kind of like sectors. And I can't tell you how many times, we'll price a job. And again, margins are very tight. Obviously, the bigger the contract, the less the margins are. That's just the way it works. Obviously, if you're doing a $5,000 job, you're most likely, at the minimum, working on a 20-25% margin. But then, you scale it up to 500,000, a million, 5 million, right? Obviously, you're not going to be making 20, 25, 30, 40%, right? It's not the way it works. Where typically, like on those bigger contracts, you're working on very minimal, right? Could be 8, 10, 12%. So it all depends, because we're in a weird world where, we'll price a job, and again, because we have relationship with the contractors, a lot of times after we've closed the job, we'll hear of, like, let's just say, like, our number was 500,000 and we're working on a 10% margin, right? So, 500,000, let's just say, dead costs to any company on a job like that, because there's certain specifications and materials you must use. There's no, like, way around that. And somebody came in on that same job for, 370,000, right? So like that to me is just, that's not even competition. It's like, whoever priced it shouldn't even be there, right? Like how are they throwing a number like that? Like, it does not even cover, like, dead costs. So I'm always a fan of being friends with my competitors, because the reality is we can't do every job in the city, right? Nor can my competitors. So, it's nice to know who you're going up against. It's nice to know who they are, how they operate. And you never know, like, we've talked about this before, like the collaboration. I've noticed in our software space, like, what I love about it is everybody's willing to collab, right? Where in construction, not so much, right? It's kind of like everybody holds their cards close to their chest. A lot of competitors, they kind of, like, let's say, like, they kind of have, like, stare-offs, like, well, that's this company, we lost this job to them or whatever. Where to me, I always feel like you never know, man. Like, you could be my competitor. Guess what? You're slow. We're busy, right? You don't want to lose your guys. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, man, you want to take 3 of my guys for 2 months? The only promise you got to make to me is you will never steal them, even if they try to leave me to go to you, or vice versa, or whatever it is. Like, we can help each other out. You know what I mean? We can help both of us grow, right? Because, like I said, there's so much work out there that you can't do all the work. So it just makes so much more sense to collab than to, let's just say, go to war, So to me, competition is healthy. And I think even for us, it puts us in check, right? To make sure that we're still, pricing properly, being competitive, giving our clients the best possible number we can. So yeah, that's what I think about the competition personally.
I think my view on it's a little bit different. Sorry, go, Cost.
No, go ahead. No,
I was gonna say, I think my view is a little bit different on it. I don't know if it's because I'm more on site and dealing with the guys, and rather than being in the office. But I actually never even focus on competition. My eyes are in my lane all the time. They always have been, always have will. I do glance once in a while, but for the most part, I tend to focus all my energy on providing a good product in a timely manner and building relationships with the clients. I think if you focus on those things, competition is completely irrelevant. It is important for, obviously, pricing when it pertains to the clients and the GCs and whoever, because obviously they have to keep everybody honest. But I think that if you provide a really good service, like I said, you're respectful, you have great relationships, and you have that trust built, competition becomes completely irrelevant. They're always going to want to work with you regardless. So, I think you have to focus on what's in front of you and what you control, right? I can't control the price that a competitor is going to give. Obviously, if you're being underbid on every single job, it's probably a problem within your own organization, where you guys are overpricing stuff. Maybe you have to, redo your materials and everything just to kind of lower them a little bit. But again, that all comes down to you. You can't, you're going to have these, like Johnny said, you know, you could price something for $500,000 and everybody's within 5%, and a company comes out of nowhere and bids it at 320 and they get the job, right? They're obviously, they're going to drop the ball on it. It's going to be a complete mess, right? So the GC wouldn't be a very smart decision to go with them to begin with. But sometimes it happens, and that's out of your control. You know, you're probably going to end up getting the job anyways when they fuck it up and they walk off site, right? So that's the way I look at it anyways. Control what's in front of you, and I think everything will fall into place.
Yeah. How do you guys look at, you know, relating to competition and this podcast? I think we've all probably heard similar comments of like, you know, just people around us like, oh, like, you know, this podcast, like, aren't you worried about like saying too much and being too transparent about your business and this and that? So like, what do you guys think about that?
Again, I stay in my lane. Like I've actually done walkthroughs on jobs with tons of other plumbing companies, and I get along with everybody, right? I wish them all the best. Like Johnny said, it's a big pie. We live in a huge metropolitan city. It's a massive pie. We're not the only plumbing company. We never will be, right? There's hundreds of us out there, right? There's a piece of pie for everybody, just like the software business. There's millions of software companies, and the piece is so big that we can all kind of get in on it. So I think, as for saying too much, there's no secrets here, man. We're trying to provide value for owners of companies, and that could very well be guys coming up in the plumbing industry. I have respect for fellow tradesmen. So if you're a guy even living in my city and you decide to start your own company, I wish you all the best. I've actually had friends start plumbing companies and other kinds of companies, and I've sat them down and have given them as much advice as I can give them. One of mine and Johnny's mentors when we first started a Toronto plumbing company, an older gentleman, he mentored us. He sat us down. We had no clue how to price jobs, right? Do we price per fixture? How, like, we had no idea what we were doing, and he sat us down, I will always value that relationship we had with him, because that's how I try to treat the other guys coming up, right? I want to help you guys. At the end, you're not going to take away from my play. We have, you know, we can all work together. You're going to get your own jobs and I'll get my own jobs, right?
Yeah. It's funny. Like, you know, for me, like I've been a mentor. You talk about mentors. You know, I've been in the software space now over 15 years. I've been a mentor to at least over like 300 startups, like throughout the years. It's something that I actually like really enjoy doing, right? I think it's a shame. I think it's a shame for anyone with any like experiences or insights to just bottle that in and like keep it to yourself. Like what good does that do? Like I feel very fulfilled and rewarding just to put it out there and help that person, like even if it helps them like a fraction of a percent, like just, you know, do better. That's very fulfilling to me. And you'd be surprised at how many other successful entrepreneurs are very open and willing to give back with no expectation in return. So
yeah,
you know,
I couldn't agree more. Honestly, Costa, like one of my friends recently started a company. I tell you guys about him all the time. He sells dog chains, right? These custom dog chains. And I gave him a lot of advice in the last year or so. And when he tells me about the success he's having, it's just like, it puts a smile on my face, right? And I think what you said, it rings true, is that like just helping somebody along the way can actually be more rewarding than your own success sometimes. You know, you pay it forward, man. I truly believe in that.
100%.
Yeah, just to like touch base on that too. We are who we are. I say it to everybody, right? I am who I am. I wear who I am on my sleeve. There's no hidden agenda. I'm not worried about saying too much, because all we're trying to do is just give, you know, the best advice that, you know, that we know, right? You know, like Charlie said, we had a mentor that, you know, coming up in the beginning years of our business. The guy helped us tremendously, right? Like without him, like I'm sure we would have learned it along the way, just like everybody did, who did it all on their own. But you know, like now it's to a point like he comes to us, right? Because obviously, you know, we've grown to a point and we've gone on to jobs that, are very big, and he'll get into, a job that's a little bit out of his league. And, I even remember a couple years ago, he was like, what about if I do this, we collab, and, you can take this portion and I'll take this portion and we can go in on it together. And I remember telling him, I don't want to say his name, but like, I just remember telling him, I was like, what about this, man? What about you go get it? Like, I'll help you price it, go get it. And if you feel like, you don't have enough manpower for this section or that section, like, just let me know and I'll lend you the guys. You know what I mean? Like we'll help guide you, right? Like I want to see people succeed. Can you imagine, Costa and Charlie? Like truly, guys, like, can you imagine somebody's listening to our content, like, took something we said, even if it's one or a couple of things, and then just dropped us a line, and it was just like, hey guys, listen to your podcast, like, I love what you said here and here. I implemented in my company, and like now my company is like taken off. Like, think about the gratification about that, right? Like, it's
that's literally why we're doing it.
Yeah,
right? It's like that. This is why we're doing this, to help people. And that mentor that we're talking about, we speak to him today, and he tells us about how proud he is of us, right? And that's how you know that he's an authentic person and he really means it and he wants to pay it forward. And that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah. Like think about it, Costa. You typically do it on every episode. You didn't do it on this one, which I'm going to give you shit about. But like, you've been typically starting this episode with like, a review, right, from like a client on Jobtable, right? And truly, like what does that do for you? Like, just the satisfaction of knowing that we've actually solved the problem. You know what I mean? That there's hundreds of softwares in this space. This one we felt, when we designed it and we packaged it and, took it to market, we feel that, we do things a little bit differently than a lot of the ones that are out there. Because we've owned and operated a company for 15 years in this space, and we feel like, we know the ins and outs and how typically construction is supposed to be, set up and build, and how you quote and how you schedule guys and how you invoice, how you project manage. And when you, like, it's one thing to say it, right? That, that we think that's what it does. But when you get a review or you get an email or a phone call or something, and it's like, guys, what you guys did here, it's amazing, it's helping me out. Like, that, to me, that's why I do it, right? Like, that's why we decided to do this podcast, right? So if anybody who's listening took anything out of any of our episodes and they've implemented it, and it's like they've seen a change for the better in their business, like, that to me is it's heartwarming, right? Like, it's like, fuck, like, we're actually able to touch, like these contractors and let them know, like, try to guide them, like guide them in the right direction. Like, we want to see you guys succeed.
Look, two things. I'll just wrap it up with this. Obviously, yeah, we don't get into like the weeds of like the personal details, but first of all, it doesn't get more raw than this. Like, we are an open book. We're sharing like real time insights and experiences, especially you guys who are in the game and killing it. So, and that is the reason why this is the best construction podcast in the world. Second thing, Johnny, since you called me out there, let's just read the latest review right here. Pulling it up. Shout out to Brittany. Jobtable has been a big asset in getting our small business up to date with modern times. Any questions, suggestions, or comments we have are immediately answered or taken into consideration and implemented. Jobtable is constantly improving their system and keeps you informed about updates as they happen. The training and one-on-one services they have are second to none. I'm looking forward to using Jobtable as our main and only source for work orders, quotes, invoicing, scheduling, and time cards during the new year. That's an awesome review, by the way. Shout out to Brittany.
Shout out Brittany.
So, yeah. All right, boys. This was another fun episode. Charlie, love the background. Hop in the beach, I'm sure, right after.
I'm gonna hop into my AI generated pool.
All right, boys. Well, all the best. We'll chat next week.
Take
All right,
care,
boys.
boys. Take
All
care.
right.
Ciao, guys.
Ciao.
Bye.